Warm greetings. Welcome to Saturday Sailing of Grammar of a Lake, a podcast with a goal to understand urban lakes of India. I'm Akash, a curious youth who has often wondered about the life of lakes around us. In this series, I'll be speaking with Dr. Mansee Bal Bhargava, who has spent 3 decades learning, loving, and living the urban lakes. In our conversation, we shall explore and experience our understanding about lakes since they are very much part of our daily day life, everyday life, whether we realize it or not. Together, we shall co learn and co create how we make knowledge, appreciate, and celebrate the lakes that quietly shape our cities and our communities. Without further ado, let's talk on limnology of lakes. Dr. Mansi, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Akash. Let's get on to the limnology.
All right, so let me ask my first question. What is limnology of a lake?
So, limnology of a lake means the biological, chemical, physical, geological characteristics a lake has, and importantly, how they interact with each other, both in freshwater, in saline water situations. So, it is a branch of science very less studied in the country. But at the same time, when people go to study biology, geology, or chemistry, they come across the limnology of water systems. So, in a way, it's a scientific study of aquatic ecosystem, all kinds of aquatic ecosystem, lakes, rivers, streams, wetlands, groundwater, ocean, sea, anything and everything which comes as a water body, peatland, marshland. We talked about it in the nomenclature. So when you are studying the characteristics, and the characteristic itself is divided into three parts: the physical limnology, which is basically talking about the light condition which is getting into the lake, how deep the water is, what are the stratas of water, benthic zone, lentic zone, and so on and so forth. Then the temperature the water carries in that lake. All these are considered as physical limnology. Then we have chemical limnology, which is often used in lake projects and works, which is about what makes up that water in the lake. So basically, the nutrients, the pH level, dissolved oxygen, pollutants, the total dissolved salts, and many more. Like the Central Pollution Control Board gives us more than 250 indicators to check the chemical limnology of the water body, which also includes physical limnology, by the way. And this will also define the kind of biological limnology that lake will have. So when we talk about biological limnology, we are talking about plants, animals, aquatic flora and fauna, in other words, microorganisms, algae, the kind of birds that will come. All this is basically covered under the biological limnology. The geological limnology is about how the minerals are there, what kind of minerals, what kind of soil underneath, what kind of composition of the soil that holds the water in the water body. And all of these put together actually will define the health of the lake. So, if you really want to know the health of the lake, we are actually talking about the limnology of the lake. So, I can stop here just in terms of its definition.
All right. Uh, so, how is the concept limnology of lake misunderstood?
The misunderstanding comes from the fact that we have quite a lot of focus on the chemical limnology. First place, actually, limnology is not even considered when we are talking about developing a lake or restoring a lake in a layperson language, in a governmental language. It is more a language which is used in terms of quality of water. So the quality of water, whenever we are talking about, is actually the limnological quality of water, which means the chemical, biological, physical, geological quality of water, which are very clearly classified field of science which have a very clear identity within the lake, and at the same time the important part to understand is that they interact with each other to create the so-called quality of the lake, which in other words we can also talk about the health of the lake. So the misunderstanding lies in the fact that most of the time we focus on the chemical limnology, thinking that you can treat the chemical part of it. And because when we are measuring pollution also, we look at the pollutants, and most of the pollutants come from the chemical limnology side, and which is human induced, and therefore we can also work on it and control it. And I give a classic example of invasion of nitrogen and phosphorus in the lakes, which is one of the key reasons we attribute to lake pollution and growth of water hyacinth. I'm just giving one example. But if the lake has more dissolved oxygen or less dissolved oxygen, if it has pH level not as per the standard set by the Pollution Control Board and WHO, if we are talking about drinking and bathing in the lake, all these things will matter, you know. But I think at this moment, when we are looking at the lake quality of water, we are focusing more on the lake should look clean, whatever that means. So visually it should be, and you know not only appealing, but then we should be able to see as far as possible into the depth of the lake. And the depth of the lake and the light penetration into the lake will also be not only dependent on the chemical limnology. So I think we are misunderstanding the relationship between all these classification of limnology, and we just go on and focusing on treating few components from the lake to consider it to be achieving a quality of the lake. And most of the time the focus is on treating nitrogen and phosphorus, and to some extent dissolved oxygen. When you see fountains in the lakes, which means they are trying to address the shortage of dissolved oxygen, whereas fishes, the ichthyology, as we discussed earlier, fishes are natural aerators of the water body. So they are moving and the water body is moving, and then the aeration happens. So oxygen comes into the water body for life to survive. And now with the death of fishes, now with the pollution of the water body, the invasion of invasive species of fishes in the water body, we also see that the dissolved oxygen level is highly compromised and challenged. So it's also chicken and egg situation. Good dissolved oxygen level means more number of fishes. So the focus is mainly at this moment on nitrogen, phosphorus, dissolved oxygen. I mean, these are TDS, and these are the same main things where we are focusing at this moment. But they are dependent on other things. The moment you have concretized the edge of the water body, you have already accepted promotion of nitrogen, phosphorus into the water body. You have already accepted that you will not have enough dissolved oxygen in the water body. So this kind of misunderstanding is very much there in lakes and water bodies management.
Understood. So just one point. You talked about light penetration and the depth through which we can see, but that depends upon not only the the origin of the lake also dictates that part, because maybe
Absolutely.
we
Geology. Yes.
geology,
Hmm.
right? So maybe we try to achieve the clarity in water through whatever you know uh, changes we do architecturally or in process of beautification, but that may
Hmm.
not always be in the best interest of the lake.
See, the most beautiful water looks is from the swimming pool, very clear. But is that a good water quality? I will doubt.
All right. Uh, Coming to the third question,
Hmm.
what challenges come in the way of acknowledging lake limnology?
I think the challenge yeah, is at two level. I will say one, that the pollution control boards are not so much empowered to be strict on local authorities, on policies. to ensure that they really work towards it. And the second is also like a chicken and egg situation. People are local authorities, designers, planners, civil engineers, contractors are unaware, or they pretend to be ignorant about the importance of limnology of lake. See, the Central Pollution Control Board, which has its state branches in every state, which produces annual reports which are based on monthly reporting of the lakes and quarterly reporting of the lakes and rivers depending on the size and location. They have set certain standards for a water body, and we are talking about lakes here, to be lakes designated best use. This is the policy word which we use. Lakes designated best use. So what best this lake can be used for? So that itself is an anthropocentric way of looking at it. But having said that, that also tells us the status of the health of the lake, which is quality of the lake, which is limnology of the lake. So whether this water body is having drinkable water, whether it is possible for outdoor fishing, outdoor bathing, whether it is possible to do fishing and consume those fishes, all these are kind of standards. And I'm just giving just three or four examples from the limnology. For example, the pH limit. So we have standards, just like our body health, we have the hemoglobin should be like this, the cholesterol level should be like. So we have global standards set by WHO, and then when we get our body tested, we see where do we have a diversion or where we are in good health. Likewise, lake also has this scale or standard, we can call it. pH, for example, pH value, for example, it was 6.5 to 8.5 is considered as a good healthy lake. Dissolved oxygen, DO, which is said, has to be more or equivalent to 4.0 mg per liter, which is essential for any aquatic life we talk about. This is like a bare minimum if you want to have fishes and aquatic plants. Then biochemical oxygen demand. I forgot about it earlier when we were talking about bio. So there is chemical oxygen demand, there is biochemical oxygen demand, and biochemical oxygen demand, for example, the Pollution Control Board talks about as 3.0 mg per liter, which also will define the level of organic pollution in the lake. So there is chemical pollution in the lake and organic pollution in the lake. Likewise, chemical health, organic health, biological health for that matter, and their presence. And these are all technically, measurable things. Then total dissolved solids, we have, it has to be less than 500 mg per liter for any lake or rivers we can talk about. So based on like this, there are more than 200 criteria, I can say it for sure, where we actually classify our water bodies as class A, which is drinking water, class B, which is bathing possibilities, class C and D and E is almost like we are talking about uh, dystrophic state, which is a dead lake. So when we are talking about these things, we are actually already in the space where all the officers who are working on the lakes, all the consultants, all the engineers, they should be given basic education about it. And I think that is missing. I don't know if I think jumped your questions, but if they are unaware, they are only targeting a very clean, clear water, and often the aspiration is to attain the swimming pool water like situation, which is never going to happen. The color of the water body will depend on the soil and the pollution both. you know so if it is brown, it is murkish green, it is bluish, it will all depend on many aspects, and all those aspects are limnological aspects.
Well, that was very interesting to learn about. Um, all right, coming to my final question, and I suppose you already started answering it.
Yes.
How can we improve our understanding about limnology of lakes, and what would be a solution to course correct?
Yeah, I mean, I already started talking about it, as you rightly mentioned, about educating ourselves, and that's the reason we are also doing this podcast series. But importantly, when we are giving a project to the respective consultants and government officers, when we are then when they are taking the responsibility, I think they need to be first informed about it, be aware about it. It's like, what you eat, that if I eat banana, I will get certain minerals. If I eat apple, I will get this. If I eat this fruit, I will get iron. If I get this. Likewise, what you do the treatment on the lake, you need to know what you are going to get out of it. Then probably you will realize that the lakes do not require your concrete, because you are treating the lake for nitrogen and phosphorus and many other things. But it's like it's a systematic way of increasing the burden on the lake. So first you create the problem, and then you claim to be the caregiver of the problem. So I want to go back, and because I am a big supporter or admirer, probably not many people in the country are talking about it. Not doing is absolutely an important thing to be understood and discussed. We do, which means we create problem, and this is not discussed. And we think we are in a pretension that we are doing to solve the problem. No, we first create the problem, and then we claim that we are solving the problem. And this is a typical government tendency, and that attitude is also transferred to the consultancy, to the contractors. They go out to the lake thinking that they are going to solve the problem of the lake. But you have not understood the problem of the lake, and you have also not understood what is a good quality lake. That's my problem. If we don't know what is a good lake, then you have an imagination of a good lake which probably is not even a lake. I'm trying to organize a lake walk in Kankaria Lake next month, for the very reason to learn what we should not be doing with the lake. You know, when you build a water tank for public consumption for drinking water, it's a completely different water body than when you have a lake, pond, peatland, wetland, marshland, swampland. But then, if you start treating the water the way you treat the water tank for drinking water, if you start treating those natural water bodies or humanly constructed in natural setting in the same way, which already tells me that there is a misunderstanding and you are unwilling to learn also. That's where my concern is, that people are already claiming to be knowing. Even I am still learning, and I'm unable to say that I know enough, that they know something what is good for the lake is to be stopped. And again, as a course correction, which I think I will keep saying again and again, please, for any lake project, appointing a limnologist is the first thing we must do. you know Appointing a limnologist in government offices who are going to make these documents for lake restoration and development is the first thing we have to do, because their absence already makes the absence of discussion. And we think lake can be developed and managed by civil engineers, IAS officers, architects, planners, and contractors. Where is the health of the lake then? Then it is the wealth of the lake, not health of the lake. So there's a difference between health of the lake and wealth of the lake. And I think lake should not be used as a money making machine. They really have to look very differently, and the health will define everything. I mean, even we don't go to a dirty lake. And you are also doing this podcast imagining how in our imagination lake is a beautiful water body where fishes are flowing, birds are chirping, it has very nice wilderness around. That's what we have been drawing from childhood. So why aren't we trying to achieve that Instead, we are trying to achieve something else because we don't understand the health. And I would like to relate it with our misunderstanding about ourselves. You know, we eat junk food. We know that junk food is not good for health. Cold drinks, all kinds of junk foods. We still consume it for ourselves. So when we are consuming, we are mistreating ourselves. I am not surprised when we are mistreating the lake. See, I mean, in this entire podcast series, I will be constantly relating ourselves with the water bodies. So if we are unconsciously doing, I can understand. But we are consciously mistreating ourselves. We are consciously getting ourselves unhealthy. Then we are still far from thinking about the health of the lake, you know. So we also have to educate ourselves. What do you put inside yourself and what do you put into the lake? The moment you go with a bulldozer to dredge the lake, you go with concrete and cement uh, tractors, you are doing exactly same what you do to yourself, eating junk food. Let me just stop here and keep it easy on everyone.
That was a very interesting comparison that you drew. So I understood that we do not understand the problems, but we are trying to solve it. And
Absolutely.
the absence of limnologists in those specific offices in authority places is also contributing to this issue.
Yes,
And we also talk about how we ourselves are careless about with our own bodies, uh, which speaks a lot about how much care we might be able to give to other water bodies, other bodies related to water
absolutely.
bodies.
And I think we have to move from the wealth of the lake or wealth, how much we accumulate as wealth to our health, as a good health, you know. That should be our prima facie goal of life, to stay healthy.
Correct. That is completely
And
agreeable
happy.
that
I
we
mean, a lake is happy when there are fishes and when there are birds. Lake is not happy when we go walking on the concrete pathways. So it's so closely related. And you know, Akash, in last 30 years, this is something which has fascinated me. That every aspect of lake, I have managed to link it with ourselves, and that's why I feel like I am lake. You know, I'm no different than a lake. And if we can treat ourselves better, I think we can treat the lake better. So we have to start from us, as Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. You know.
true completely. All right. Uh, Concluding this podcast, for our viewers, in case you have questions or comments, we are happy to hear from you. You may find Grammar of a Lake session on our YouTube channel, V for Water, and on our website, www.w4w.org, along with many conversations dedicated to water, since we believe water conversations are way towards water conservation. Stay tuned. See you again on Saturday Sailing. Take care and thank you for listening. Thank you, Dr. Mansi.
Thank you, Akash, and look forward to more topics and more discussion.